Well, well then, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends and comrades all, welcome. If indeed welcome is the correct word and the correct sentiment for this particular occasion, unusual though it is, this very quiet backwater celebration marking the occasion. Rather, this is not so much like a glorious celebratory feast where we're all drinking from horns and singing songs. This is more a quiet half bottle of scotch because god damn we survived the fucking thing. What an adventure it has been, friends and comrades, those of you in the what now sphere. For tonight, depending on where you are on the planet relative to the prime meridian, at midnight here, I will be an author. The book What I Wrote will exist. There is a tab open here, not that you can see it, not that you can see anything other than this rather moody black and white photograph and a pulsating audio bar, because my face and general physical form is the aforementioned war crime and is best left unseen. But this tab up here is lingering over the imminence of the paperback publication. There is a little amber button here, this little action tab. But the second I press it, I hope, I really, really hope, because Lord knows nothing about this whole scenario has been as streamlined as I dare say they want us to think it is, but all being well, the second it is pressed, the paperback will be published, will be available on print on demand. And the general idea is that I'm just going to sort of waffle here. I'm going to sit here, well, lie here, as is the actual case, waiting for the inevitable. And then at midnight, I'm going to smash that button, rather like smashing a bottle of champagne over the arse of a ship. No, you don't do it over the arse of a ship, do you? You do it over its bow. You basically bottle a boat in the face to make it go. That's how fluid dynamics works and marine engineering works. So that is something to look forward to. At midnight, I will be manually activating the paperback publication. Why has everything just highlighted? I didn't touch anything. I am such a fucking technophobe. I'm going to get out of there right now. So there are two people here. Shall we go ahead and find out who they are? Well, you know who you are because you're here. I'm the only two people here. Okay, Weird is here, who I can always rely on. Thank you so much. My squid, my squid. Imagine me standing upon the tables in the classroom and declaring, my squid, my squid. Walt Whitman had a Lovecraftian phase, you know. So we can only hope. I know an antique place with drinking horns just need a crowbar and some duct tape. That's small brain stuff. All you need to know is where the bull is. A bull, a hacksaw, and a bottle of gin, and you are ready to go. All it takes is the will to do it. So, what the fuck am I doing here? Asked nobody, except me, more or less continuously. Well, the gestation, the long and sorry pregnancy that has been this book, sort of coincides with, give or take, a couple of months with my presence on AuthorTube. Oh, we've just ticked past 420. Nice. So I had become aware of these things that people do when they've got a book coming out. And the whole thing has rather made me feel like either a time traveler or a stranded alien who is trying to blend in with a human community, because I think that I'm doing everything that they do, and yet it's never quite the same. So here I am doing a stream for the release of my book, and I must say I'm a little salty about the whole thing. Nothing to do with any gathered here present, not at all, not at all, not at all. I probably would have done something like this anyway, if not necessarily on this day. But living as I do on Plague Island, what I should be doing is enjoying a ridiculously time-placed pub crawl and getting completely arseholed with a select group of friends to, as it were, wet the baby's head. And instead, I'm locked in here, which is interesting. It puts a bit of a damp squib on the whole affair, but that has been the trajectory of this book, frankly. And I'm not aiming to put a downer on this. It's just how it has manifested itself. This book has come to be in spite of itself, rather than because of any singular merits that it might hold. It's like an extremophile, like a tardigrade. It just keeps going. The world has literally collapsed around it. Everything that could possibly be done to stop it coming into being has been thrown at it, and it just kept going to the point where I am actually lay here sort of mildly shaking and looking at the clock ticking by, because there is still just enough time for something to go wrong. Oh, dear me, dear me, dear me. Oh my God, you are indeed my frozen calamari. Oh, indeed, my frozen calamari. And I would not have it any other way. Too messy a job. If a farmer wakes up, he's bound to be very pleased at the mutilated bull found in the field. I made the terrible mistake once of wandering onto a cattle farm in Wales, chiefly because the fence wasn't marked particularly well. It sort of went through a wooded area where I was walking, and I'd been hill walking and just sort of wandered off very merrily in my own thoughts, and I came across a stile that wasn't attached to a gate or a fence or anything. It was just sort of in between the. I thought, that's a peculiar little thing, and I carried on about my way. And I kept walking until the tree started to thin out, realizing that I was going up the whole time, and only stopped when I paused to light a smoke, and became aware that I was being watched. And there was a white bull looking at me, just stood on the slope, looking at me, very, very interested into what the hell I was doing there. And I very quickly, more correctly, should say it was a bullock, but there we are. A lot of things became clear to me at once. The first was that I'd gone off the path, that I wasn't where I had intended to be. 2, that I shouldn't be where I had ended up. And 3, and frankly this should have topped the list but didn't, there's a fucking bull looking at me, and I've brought fire. Chief amongst my concerns, though, was that I was in Wales, and I'm an Englishman, and their Welsh farmers are known for 2 things. 1 is not liking Englishmen, and 2 is being one of the very few groups in the British Isles that are habitually armed. So I got out of there as quickly as I could without getting the thing to charge at me. But it followed me for a little while, which was an interesting occurrence. I didn't know how I'd get away with explaining that I had this bull following me around. Oh, to be young and bothering with bulls again. Oh, I didn't realize the Welsh were so gangster. Just the farmers, just the farmers. Um, it seems that despite the regional and national differences, wherever you go in this country, on this island rather, the farmers are all the same. there was a there was a court case about 2 years ago. It was wrapped up 2 years ago anyway, where some hoodlums, because there's a real spate of rural crimes here because they're so far away from where help can be and rural police services are just not fit for purpose. So this gang decided to break into a farmhouse because they knew the farmer was quite elderly. And the farmer was still awake. He was in his kitchen, the 70-odd-year-old man. And they attacked him. And he had his shotgun to hand and shot and shot the leader of the gang. And this court case went on for ages because of the argument of when he shot him. The way they made the argument was that they'd kicked in the door and he was waiting for them, which only made him look so much more intense in the eyes of the public. Oh, I'm probably mistaking half of that, but there we are. Oh, so go on, kids. What am I going to do? How am I going to fill this time? What should I do? I am open to suggestions. As I said in the description, this is essentially me pacing back and forth, smoking endless cigarettes. Well, no, I'm not. I wish I was, but I'm not. Waiting for the delivery of this creature. Live reading. Oh dear. Must I? I was going to say if you had any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but let me see if I can find a file here. It is so incredibly buried. Please don't crash the whole thing. Talk amongst yourselves for a moment. Which one is it? 11th of the 12th? Please, maybe, yes, could be. Right, well, do you want a... Hang on, you've both read it. So do you want an extract from the book that is being published read, or from what I'm working on at the minute of something new? And you can lord it over people who aren't here. That you were there when it happened. Is your choice. Well, I think once tonight has passed and the Dead Meat Sextet is out in the world, I will be able to move on and start writing new things. And I have two projects that I'm hoping to work on somewhat simultaneously. One of them is a new novel, the other is a book of short stories. And the extract would be from the only one of those stories that I've actually given sincere time to. So, it is your choice in this very quiet Sunday night. Day of rest, so they say. Oh, hello. There's something happening here. But alas. You know what? I'm going to do from the new short story because it's right here in my quick access. Oh, it fucking should be. Yeah, here we are. There we go. Well then, are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. This is called... Hang on, where did that go? There it is. This is called Pogo Lives, or at least it is a part of something that will be called Pogo Lives. Dr. Radcliffe had gone all to gravy by the time a jobbing window cleaner noticed the dense black cloud of flies in his living room window. His corpse, such as was left, was found by the police to be sat in his armchair, into which the greater volume of his liquefied and putrefied mass had leaked and soaked. One of the first responding constables, after he'd sprayed the contents of his writhing innards into the privets outside, reported that the feculent soup had spread a ring around the chair into the pile carpet, like a coffee mug on a napkin, or so he said. It wasn't the only thing people said. Dr. Radcliffe's house, not to mention Dr. Radcliffe himself, had as potent a reputation for creepiness as could be afforded anything nominally of brick and mortar, flesh and blood. The large, double-fronted Edwardian house stuck out like a sore thumb from the others on King's Road, though perhaps it's more true to say it stuck out like the one rotten, twisted fang in a mouth of otherwise lovely teeth. Dr. Radcliffe had, so far as anybody could tell, moved into number 39 at the same time as Margaret Thatcher had moved into number 10, and in all that time not one lick of paint, not a squirt of polish, not a moment's worth of any maintenance of any kind had been applied to the building. A ghastly, oozing aura of rot and decay held fast to its dimensions and thickened the atmosphere all about it. The paint had, but for sad, scabrous patches, all flaked away. The brickwork beneath crumbled and wept with gangrenous damp. The wood of the door and the window frames bulged and blackened and nurtured colonies of pale mushrooms. The gutters and drain pipes swooned under the unattended weight of decades' worth of petrified muck. The chimney stack lurched queasily over yawning holes in the roof. The gate had rusted away to a shrieking thing of pain and tetanus. The windows had browned and yellowed with a greasy inner film, and here and there the panes were inexpertly held together with zigzags of ancient parcel tape. It was no way for a man to live, much less to die. Worse yet was the hoarding. Dr. Radcliffe was known for, among other things, being filthy. The privets at the front of the house that had climbed ever higher into startling, Triffid-like throngs and structures largely masked his habits of just throwing fat and leaking black bin bags into a tall reef onto his porch, until the congregations of rats and foxes forced the council's hand to intermittent interventions. But no one really knew, or could begin to imagine, the totality of the cloying, tangled accumulation that had built up inside number 39 King's Road. Indeed, it was observed by the officers once they had forced their way through the swollen door into the fetid, reeking inner sanctum, and once they had determined through slow and stalling progresses how to navigate the hoard into the living room, they couldn't accurately tell which of the filth and feculence was Dr. Radcliffe's handiwork, and which of it was the remains of Dr. Radcliffe himself. The question was, of course, how the old man had come to be and then left in such a miserable state. The usual inquiries found nothing like family or friends, at least not any who weren't incredulously surprised to discover he'd been alive for the last few decades before hanging up. But King's Road was a busy thoroughfare. There was a much-frequented bus stop right outside the house, How had no one thought about an anonymous report to social services or a more substantial complaint to the council? Why had Dr. Radcliffe had to liquefy in his rank cave before anyone took notice? It was unquantifiable, could barely be articulated, but it was understood to those who passed by in greater or lesser degrees that number 39 exerted some dull yet potent force upon the community, something that bolstered his reclusiveness and repelled the world at large. It didn't matter how the house dragged down the local property prices. It was barely an inconvenience that dogs of every shape and size on their walks were compelled to crouch at the gate, to stare at the door through the rust-twisted bars and growl low in their throats until they had to be heaved away. Nor could the midnight shouting, weeping, and unhinged howling do anything to convince the residents of King's Road to approach or engage with number 39, where only those seasonal rat swarms could rouse them to begrudging acknowledgement. If Joe Bloggs, the window cleaner, had been from the area and not trying his franchise's luck further afield, he would have walked right on by, and the body would have remained undiscovered for an untold time yet. This didn't stop the rubbernecking or curtain twitching of the neighbours when what little remained of Dr. Radcliffe was removed from the property under police observation, but it stayed even the loosest of free-flying gossips' tongues. Radcliffe was gone, but the house remained, and the smell that poured from out the forced door swamped the immediate area with a stubbornness and near tangibility that suggested that it had no intention of going anywhere anytime soon, like summertime flood damage in a dog food factory. Liverpool City Council was put in a hell of a bind over the whole thing. In the absence of any heirs or even solicitors, the management of Dr. Radcliffe's estate fell to their officers, which trapped them in the uncomfortable position of acknowledging there was an estate to manage. It didn't seem a moment had passed before eagle-eyed and prurient inquiries were being made on the property by private developers and landlords with an idea to creating an HMO or an Airbnb to exploit the proximity of the football stadium. The general feeling in the council's housing office, particularly Deputy Officer Carl Lampkin, who'd made the terrible mistake of not paying enough attention and saying "not it" too late, was that the sooner they were rid of number 39 King's Road, the better. Just the mention of it made all in the department's skin crawl and their clothes feel sticky. But nothing could be done until the nightmare accumulation of Dr. Radcliffe's rancid life and the entirety of his hoard was disassembled and disposed of. Lampkin floated the idea of giving fair warning to numbers 37 and 41 and just setting a match to the whole thing. A thoughtful silence had followed, but he quickly realized that could mean him having to go inside to set the fire, and a cold slime slicked away under his clothes, so he quickly dismissed the idea and went about organizing cleaners. Neither the sanitation department nor the environmental department would have anything to do with it. So far as they were concerned, they had long since done their duty by that place and would have no more of it. It was no surprise to Lampkin that the local heavy-duty cleaning services were putting up a fight over it. The house's reputation had an almost viral aspect to it, spreading on rumour and through telecommunication services out and through the population, even to those who didn't have a first-hand reference to it. Symptoms of the virus, Lampkin found, included, but were not limited to, sudden inability to understand English, miraculously overfilled diaries, and the spontaneous dropping of telephone connections. It was in desperation then, and with the promise of a 5-year council contract that he was in no way authorised to make, that Deputy Housing Officer Carl Lampkin was able to enlist the services of Dave Smithy and Alex Wright 1 week after Dr. Radcliffe's body was removed. And yeah, the rest of the story is about what the cleaners find in the house and the results of that. So that filled 10 minutes. Not even that. But that is the opening of one story I'm working on. There's another here. do this primarily to prove that there is a story in this collection that has, I think, at the very risk of blowing my own horn, has possibly the best title. I stopped because I haven't written any more of it. Well, I've written some other parts of it, but it's tangential and non-linear and hasn't been linked up yet. But there is one story in this collection, excuse me, which I, again, at the risk of blowing my own horn, that I think has the best title and best first line I have ever written and can ever hope to write. The story is called What I Learned About Life at Discount Prehistoric Adventure Funland, Wow. And the first line of that story is, the old man's name was Francis McClaverty, and no one knew where he'd come from. But of more pressing concern to both the residents of Daftbridge and the authorities in general was where he was getting the dinosaurs from. Nobody knew that either. And I think I can sort of give up on writing now, because I don't think I will ever do better than that particular opening gambit. There is, since you seem to like me reading these things, there is a part of one of these stories that, again, it's only started, so to speak, that you might be interested in. Here's a fun thing. It's my first attempt at writing a romance, or at least something with a romance in the plot, but it's very much a how I would do it. Dear God in heaven, if that isn't a QWERTY. My. How the devil are you, other than being at work, which must be nice. Like in the long run, perhaps not in this exact moment. So if you want to hear how What Now writes something romantic, you can hear that, or you can hear the part of it that's written in this document anyway. Cast your votes now. That's one for Gimme Gimme Gimme, A Man After Midnight. I do not understand it, but I am finding myself incredibly nervous about this going live. It's a quite remarkable sensation. Oh, you missed the nasty one, Q. You missed the one that was all rotten dead bodies and civil authority. Oh my God, yes, it is. It is Valentine's Day, isn't it? So I suppose this is appropriate. This one is strange because I've written the opening, and I know how it ends, but it's all the middle bit that's the problem. So this is called The Mandrill, and this is how What Now writes a romance. Oh boy. When I awoke on the 5th day, beams of grey sunlight wept through the narrow window, wood pigeons boomed in the trees beyond the pane, and the mandrill sat on the ceiling, quietly watching me. When I eased myself up in the bed, the crisp, thin linens rustled about me, the springs complained under my buttocks, and the mandrill sat on the ceiling, yawning a fanged yawn as it quietly watched me. I like to think I took this apparition like a trooper. After all the days when I'd wake up with a mandrill passively watching me wake, with unsettling implications of just how long it had been watching me sleep, were quite recent. But truth be told, I'd quite quickly become used to the old red and blue-faced fella, So instead of a repeat performance of my very first reaction, something along the lines of, Jesus fucking Christ, what the hell's that? I quietly tucked my pyjama-clad knees up under my chin and engaged him in his preferred staring contest. I was getting better, too. The grey light bloomed into wholesome, buttery fronds by the time my eyes started to water and the mandrill had won yet another round. Another defeat. Encouraging, but a defeat nonetheless. I swear I saw his yellow eyes water just ever so slightly at one point. But all in all, I had nothing to say to him. So I swung myself off my single berth, stepped into my slippers, and pulled on my tartan fleece dressing gown over my toothpaste-striped pyjamas. Everyone in the sanatorium was provided with regulation attire, for comfort and to foster a relaxed mindset, so they said, which was probably the second worst aspect of my stay at St. Moreau's, that creaking country seat for the chronically bewildered and spiritually beleaguered. The absolute worst, I was convinced, was that all the doors only locked from the outside. Single bed, an upsettingly large wardrobe, a dresser, a washstand, that was it. That was all they afforded me in the narrow cell. Lodgings, all alone in the house's attic. Sky ward, as the matron called it. The solitude of my stay was part of my treatment, meant to leave me alone with the mandrill so that I could rid myself of him and await my true familiar. I was allowed out at breakfast with the other patients, likewise for dinner, and permitted an hour a day, if the weather was convivial, to walk in the grounds that Mr. Croesus kept on just the right side of Wild, on Dr. Lofting's express instructions. The rest of the time it was just me and the mandrill. Day in, day out, only the mandrill. And sure enough, to tell you the truth, we'd actually started to get along pretty well. Indeed, I was starting to find it hard to imagine life without him. Sometimes he'd even stop walking on the ceiling or slowly revolving 5 feet above the warped staccato of the floorboards and sit on the bed or the windowsill like a respectable primate apparition. He sat on the bed now, watching me with a cock of his head and inquisitive curl of the lip. I shrugged noncommittedly and stood with my arms folded, staring out at the rolling green tides of the sloping lawn, and waited for someone to come and let me out. The mandrill barked once, a sharp, resigned tone, and rolled over onto his side with a huff. Spend any amount of time locked in a room with a monkey, and you're bound to get a little chummy. He was right to be huffy, of course. He knew my mind wasn't actually on how Croesus was clearing dead voles from out of the mossy fountain and delivering them to the giggling things that lived in his coat. Nor was my eagerness to do with a very sincere desire to take a piss. Didn't really get on with the other patients, you see. Mind you, that wasn't exactly the point. Everyone there had been invited, because their animal familiar didn't match what the doctors determined they should be. I had a mandrill. I liked my mandrill, once I'd stopped throwing shoes at him from the safety of the linen cupboard, but Dr. Lofting had insisted I should have a dog. I liked dogs just fine. I just preferred my mandrill. And whatever beleaguered eldritch forces had decided such things agreed. But I was a prisoner until I'd got rid of him and substituted him for a dog. And everyone at St. Moreau's had the same problem, and so, naturally, other things on their minds than making friends. As such, every morning at breakfast, I sat in sulking solemnity, looking at the dejected and baffled folk and their uproarious spectral menageries, fighting to justify their existences amid the cornflakes, the orange juice, and the anemic tea. There was an elderly lady, roly-poly and worrisome beneath a frizz of grey-white hair, trying to, and mostly failing, ignore the playful entreatings of a tiny hippopotamus that gambled about her boiled egg before wallowing sleepily in her coffee cup. She could never resist putting the drowsy pachyderm into her dressing gown pocket and hoping the prowling matron never noticed. There was another at my table, a giant, square-headed ham-hock of a youth who would spend his days oscillating to the point of meltdown between impotent rage and flustered embarrassment, forcing his huge hand over his mouth as bursts of pale purple butterflies erupted out of him with every sneeze, cough, and hiccup. And then there was the girl who really twisted me the wrong way. She was always to be found sat at the far end of my own long table, Hair of tangled silvery hair, huge round spectacles that inflated her eyes so much that the rest of her face seemed pinched and spoon-reflected, surrounded by otters. Otters, deep, navy blue, silky things, gamboled and tumbled about her table and multiplied every other day or so. When I first saw her, she had 2, and then 5, and the last I'd seen, she'd had 7. She couldn't get the bloody squeaking things under control. She would bring up a spoonful of cornflakes to her mouth. Then an otter would come squeaking and bounding up, whereupon she'd resignedly give it the spoon, and it would lap away all the milk, leaving her with only soggy, mushy cornflakes on the spoon for breakfast. It was the same with every bloody attempted spoonful, and every bloody otter. I'd watched this every morning with hideous curiosity, this pitiful show of submission to her spectres that only ever grew in strength. She never stopped the otters. She never looked at anyone, never spoke. She just pardon me, just kept her own private otter court as if she were their solemn queen, who knew something we were all too stupid to. It enraged me in ways I can't bring the words to utter. Because, you see, the fact of the matter is, I'd fallen hopelessly in love with this otter girl the second I laid eyes on her. Funnily enough, so had the mandrill, which must be a significance of one sort or another. As time had passed with little, if indeed anything, to occupy me otherwise, my mind swelled with thoughts of the otter girl, glutting myself on the idea of her and all that might be. In the restless hours before sleeping and the feverish time between waking and release, I would busily construct an image of her out of everything I didn't know about her. There was a lot of that. Outside of her preferred breakfast cereal and her expanding brood of otters, I had nothing. No name, no voice. I didn't even know where she was situated in the sanatorium, though I did know she wasn't in Skyward with me. I was alone up here. Just me and the mandrill, day in, day out, constructing a Pygmalion fiction of the girl I loved but would never hope of knowing, and deconstructing it every day so I could begin again. As I stared out at Croesus the gardener, his giggling coat, waited for someone to open the door. And that's all I've got about that. And that's all I've got of that. I can't remember if I said that out loud. About 5 people watching. Greetings, lurkers. And yeah, that's the opening of one of those stories. I got scrambled there because I noticed ridiculous little typos. There's a point where I put the word spook instead of spoon. Let me check the time. Am I published yet? No, not yet. Oh, it is like New Year's Eve, this, isn't it? It's like, come on, come on, come on. I don't know what you. Holy hell! Hello. Oh, hang on. It's all scampered up there. Yeah, the basic premise of it is that it's going to be a riff on Puss in Boots, but with a mandrill instead. It's going to be like the trying to break out, and these familiars are doing the, or I don't know, Cyrano de Bergerac with a monkey. Hello, Chasing Epiphany. It's absolutely wonderful to see you. Thank you for dropping by. I need you to finish more things because it's yeah. I swear to God that once this night has passed, I may yet have a clear mind so that I can move on to other things. And because Lord knows there is a very, very long list of things to be moving on to. I am in the process of rewriting the pilot for a fantasy comedy series that me and my friend will be doing. And it's an interesting position to be in because for the first time ever, the only reason this particular project isn't happening is because I haven't written it yet. It's very, very interesting to be. I see absolutely no bloody reason not to. As of 20 minutes and 10 seconds from now. I am literally anybody's, so long as the plague doesn't get me. I'm harboring this minor paranoia that I'm going to be the last person that that the virus gets on the last day. I'll get it. And the book that is published tonight will be my legacy. It is a extraordinarily strange situation that I'm finding myself in. It's I wouldn't go so far as to say it's surreal, because I think that word is thrown around a little too much, but yeah, there's something at work that I don't entirely. It's difficult to it's difficult to quantify, because it's difficult to explain the nightmare path that this book has taken in order to get here. It has been almost as if the wrath of the gods were against it being completed. I got to a point where I had a reasonably good in with an agent, like a proper London one, and like talking with him in person. How many times do you get to talk to the agents in person? And I took his notes and I rewrote the manuscript, and then an actual doomsday plague hit. And well, you've probably all heard stories about people trying to get anything done with agents as a first-time writer during all of this. They very much running a closed shop. But my hand was rather forced, and I must say that the wanderings into self-publication have not been as horrifying as I was led to believe, and as I could have imagined. I don't know if any of you have ever studied creative writing at university level, at whatever level that is. But the way they talk about self-publishing is rather like how evangelical schools talk about sex. Do it and you'll die, sort of thing. Not just be cautious and be sensible, and remember that you're actually the parallels work rather well. No, it's they talk about self-publishing in a way that was comparable to looking at self-published authors as if they were fallen women, the streetwalkers and creatures of the night. Well, I am quite happy to be a creature of the night. What have we got here? Yes, I have not forgotten. Every new day alive is one step closer to the high score of human longevity. Yeah, I'm on board with that. I do like the idea of changing the idea of ages for levels. I am very much on board with that. I hear really even happens anymore talking to them, but I am under no illusion of the amount of luck that was required, or indeed the Loki like trick. Yeah, don't get me wrong, I had a very nice time at university, and I made some allies who are actually, I'll get to that story in a minute, because it actually bears upon the writing of this book. I am slightly distracted because this is just so bizarre. It is very discouraging taking writing. Yeah, I agree entirely. I've lost the better part of 6 years of my life. Studied movie script writing, one course of feature. Now, you see, I imagine I when I was on my BA, I took some lessons in screenwriting, and that didn't piss me off quite as much as the prose or novel writing or short or however the modules broken down. The classes for script writing had a more solidly focused point of view. Even if you disagreed with them, there was nevertheless a click, and they could prove what they were saying was the point. They could make statements and back it up. I hate this statement. Yeah, it's. I mean, the vanity press still exists. There is no denying that, and there are plenty of sharks out there. What I've got, I've done pretty much all of this by myself. So I haven't had to part with any cash other than buying the bound proof copy so I could review it. But actually, if there's one thing that the studying at university did give me, it was how to look out for sharks. And if an offer is too good to be true, it usually is. So I do worry about people setting out with the best intentions and getting themselves rinsed. Any kinds of attention taken, whatever individual. What the hell am I doing? I'm a master of the English fucking language, and I can't read today. Writing classes have a tendency of taking whatever individuality a story may have and wringing it out until it's drier than a granny's severely overcooked Christmas turkey. Boy, I'm glad you said severely overcooked Christmas turkey, because there are a lot of things that could be drier. The short film course was one of the happiest times of my life since it was focused on writing together with people. Writing together with people made me happy. That's wonderful to hear. It was not my experience, but I'm very glad that it does work for some people. And there's that line in Neil Gaiman's that writers are a solitary species. We like being solitary, but we like being solitary together. And so it's an insufferable paradox. Oh, there's Verona. It's like I appreciate the things I learned. They were invaluable. However, the climate was just so alarmingly elitist. It really, really was. I limped through my masters. It was like no matter which way you turned, they bad. I think every student says this. They didn't like me, but I think I perplexed them in a way because their instinct said they shouldn't like me, but all of them, because I wanted to write genre fiction and speculative fiction. At the time, I didn't know about weird fiction. I found out about it while I was there, but all my reference points were, James Joyce and J.G. Ballard and so on and so forth. So because I was talking about literary writers, but wanting to write weird shit, they didn't know how to get it. It's the whole genre fiction versus literary fiction twists my brain so badly, because when you get down to it, all fiction is fantasy. Every last word of it, just to a greater or lesser degree. We're talking about shades of fantasy. Because there are two kinds of prose writing. There is fiction and there is non-fiction. Charles Dickens wrote the most famous ghost story in history. But, it's also la-di-da, and I was really losing my nerve. I did genuinely come to a point where I was thinking, well, clearly I cannot do this. You had people coming in and saying things like, because I know I don't sound it, but I'm northern working class trash, and they'd come in and they'd say things like, oh, well, if you're from the north, you should be writing northern fiction. And I'd say to them, well, what do you think northern fiction is? and it was basically poverty porn. That was what is saying that's all I was good for. And when they found out about my disability, I was like, "Oh, magnificent! This is the sum total of what I am." If you try that with any other demographic and see how far you get, sunshine, they'll rip your fucking eyes out. So I was really in a bad place when I'd started writing this book, and I was fortunate, so fortunate that in the last year, not even like the last semester of the last year, I got a new tutor who, as it transpired, is actually a best-selling author and internationally recognized author, and I have the great fortune to be taken under her wing, and for her to actually choose to work with me, who just told me the thing that it was so simple, but that I needed to hear, which was that there is no barrier between literary fiction and genre fiction. It's just a matter of arrangement. It's just how things are put on the bookshelf. That's all it is. It's just where things are put in the bookshop. It's nothing magical. So I can take my, well, let's be honest, my pretenses and wrap them up in something absolutely bizarre. And but in the acknowledgements of the book, Caroline is mentioned at length, and I suppose I really should message her. I should drop her an email when this is all done and dusted. See if she'll take a gift of a copy. Oh, sorry, I've missed one here. Being solitary together is my thing now, as I can't seem to accomplish anything without a stream. Neither can any self-respecting rowboat. This is the best way to describe being a writer. I'm antisocial most days, but I'm all about a group working on individual projects. It's weird. Yeah, there's a sort of, I know exactly what you mean. It's an interesting social phenomenon. I was going to go with something else. I try to belong to a granny. The best one was driving a peanut in a dead nun's noo-noo. Not for dirty genre fiction. Oh, the dirty, the filthy, the rancid genre fiction. Oh, they used an anachronism, Tarquin. Oh. I'm going to... No, not Ian McEwan. Who's the other one? Do I mean Ian McEwan? No, Amos. Martin Amos. I'm going to find Martin Amos and beat him to death. That was an exciting adventure around my encroaching Alzheimer's, wasn't it? Sounds so questionable to say to you. Yeah, it was. Particularly interesting, questionable is that it was in an elevator. It was in a lift when it happened. So you're right. With the tools to create stories where only your imagination is the limit, better only write what you know from your own drab reality. Yeah, this nonsense of write what you know. I don't know if this advice is used in a general malicious sense, or if there has been an honest-to-God misunderstanding. Because from everything I've ever been able to find out, the idea of write what you know is, one, a guideline, and two, only ever intended as a starting point. Much like an actor learning Stanislavski's method. Find some emotion within yourself that you have experienced and use it to apply to a character. It's meant to be a step up into into a greater emotional integrity. It's not meant to be taken purely literally. And God help me, as I'm getting older, I'm more and more coming to hate the literally minded, and has no genuine place in in serious fiction writing. Long live the abstract. That was a message for Q, not for me. No, but it didn't bother me. It was a guest. It was you can't see me doing the air quotes. A guest tutor. It's shocking how it really is reduced down to if it's Don't mind me. Don't mind me. The classist attitude in fiction is remarkable. So really, the only way I was ever going to get things out there was by self-publishing. And depending on how well this experiment goes, there is a coming deluge, because I will be moving on. Pardon me. These the collection of short stories is an ongoing thing, but the next big project is Dr. Salinger Will Be Right Back. Holy shit, there is less than 5 minutes. What I'm curious about is when it clicks to midnight, when it clicks over to the 15th here, does that count as the 15th everywhere else? Because almost all of my pre-orders are in America. Or do they, I don't know, I guess we will find out. Whenever a piece of advice becomes mainstream, it becomes available to be used by every editor. Yeah, it's not entirely unlike a get-rich-quick scheme. Reducing it to painting by numbers. Because every rule, so-called rule you can find for fiction writing, I'll find you a book that breaks that rule. You know, in my introduction to prose lessons, I just wanted to pick up a copy of Ulysses and beat them to death with it. There can be no rules. There should be no... Hell, the Dead Meat Sextet breaks every rule I have seen offered through AuthorTube videos. It's a tangled, not exactly Joycean, but certainly a new wave mess. Looking to web noveling. Oh, that's interesting. I want to traditional publish at some point, but I'm not too... Yeah, I can't deny that the real reason I wanted to be traditionally published is to prove a fucking point. Because I know, again, I sound like stiff upper lip Englishman, but you know, I'm from the same town as the fucking Beatles, for Christ's sake. So yeah, I want to be traditionally published to prove a goddamn point. And I think I've got the book that'll do it. They won't be able to resist. Generally, too many writers are hung up on having hard, fast rules to stick by. Less than good. Yeah, writing should be wandering in the wilds, not taking the path well trodden. If somebody wants to write a YA chosen one narrative that follows the hero's journey in 3 acts, that's absolutely fine, so long as it's their choice to write that. But there is I don't even think it's a particularly conscious pressure. I think it's more an accumulative pressure that this is how things are done. That you follow these. I mean, take just for the little things like the change in grammar and the changes in how we speak. It has suddenly, well, comparatively suddenly, been decided that using the word literally in a non-literal sense is terrible grammar. And it's bullshit. I can say, my God, I was that angry, I literally exploded. And it's fine. But you get these grammar Nazis that insist it's wrong, and it's not. It's called a hyperbolic intensifier. And you'll find it in Dickens, you'll find it in the Brontes, you'll find it in Twain for all of his other issues. He nevertheless understood how to use a hyperbolic intensifier. It's a sort of gatekeeping. It's a sort of... It's an attempt to consolidate and conform, and it must under no circumstances ever do that. Another thing I have an issue with is how apparently voice is the enemy, that a writer's voice is a bad thing to have. It feels like there's a lot of pressure to follow those rules because people want badly to be published. So they want to believe that when they don't, it's because they didn't follow all the rules in a way. Yeah, I get that entirely. I agree wholeheartedly. Holy shit, here it comes. It's a-coming. 40 seconds. If anybody has any last words, don't mind me, folks. I'm just thinking about everything that has happened in the lead up to this moment. Jesus. This is what it's been like for everyone. Anyone here who's like published something, let me know if this is how it's supposed to feel. Whew. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Midnight. Let's have a peeky peek. Publish your paperback book. Oh, that's taking its time. How alarming. Did it do it? I knew it. Next, we'll review your book to ensure it meets KDP's guidelines for book details, content, and quality. If it passes our review, it can take up to 72 hours to be available for purchase. I fucking knew it. Fuck it. There it is. It's done. Oh. What's that all about? What's going on here? Your pre-order title is ready for release on your chosen date. That is now. You will not be able to make any changes to the book content or book details as we prefer to deliver. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, fine. I get that. I get that. But can I have... Oh shit, I'm streaming, aren't I? Yeah, there's people here. Hi, guys. Hi. Hi, how we doing? I'm just checking something. Oh, yeah, it's there. The paperback hasn't been approved yet, but you can get it on .co.uk, which is the primary. I don't know why I did that, because if I'd set it to work on Amazon.com, no matter what, it would have been early here anyway. It would have made no difference. I'd call it the last blinking light of my failing patriotism. Right, I can't even see if something is to buy on Amazon.com. I'm going to go ahead and say that everything's fine. Everything's fine, guys. It's fine. Right, what have we got? I think it was Rob McKee who said that those who are against double negatives, no rating. Those who are for double negatives, no life, because things always get worse and worse. Absolutely. I've not heard that one before, but yeah. That's why Doritos aren't as good as people make them out to be. I agree. But God knows I'll eat a bowl if it's there. I cried when someone received a piece of artwork I finished. Oh, that must feel good. Maybe that's when it'll hit me, when I see other people with it, that I myself have not sent it to. What is that? What is that little? Is that like a beetle or a ladybird or spooky hour? 'Tis released. I'll give it a second now. It is. I'm. Gregor Samsa awoke one morning to discover that his KDP manuscript still hadn't been published in paperback form. 6 hours. That's an interesting one. It didn't say anything about this in the vast amounts of information that it provided. Oh, a confetti ball, right. Wait. You now have the ebook. In that case, what won't be available for another 6 hours? Huh? Right, paperback is in review. Christ. Spoiled my timing, this. Wow, I appear to have lost all of my object permanence because I have to keep actively reminding myself that I'm streaming and there are people who can hear me talking to myself. Huh. Well, I'm sure it'll all make sense when I wake up tomorrow. Most things usually do. I pre-ordered a book, but it won't let me have it till 12 a.m. for me. Right, okay. Okay then. Okay. 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 Well, okay then. Celebrate good times, I guess? Yeah, I'll take it. It hasn't ticked over. Oh, maybe it's I don't know, folks. I don't know. But all honesty, nor do I particularly care. It's done. It is out of my hands. It is now, whether we like it or not, a part of the greater English canon. Oh, I left that open, didn't I? Yeah, I swear to God, I've been in here too long. I think this stream has formed the longest sustained sentence stream for about 6 months. It's insane. Yeah, it's only 5 here, so I gotta wait. Oh my. All the best, Marco. Great to see you again. Long life to you. I'm happy that you finally hit the publish button. If I'd known it would do this, but then again, of course it would. It's 2 separate bloody files. Oh, I thought because one manuscript had been authorized already that it wouldn't be an issue. And mind you, they got through the ebook file pretty quickly. And they'll only email me if something's wrong with it. Still. This is very on brand. What now? What should I do now? I'm technically in the... Hello, Ava. It's not my birthday, but it's well, technically my book is 8 minutes old and has been released. Oh, things are happening. Things are happening. Yes, it's my baby birthday book day. Big Bird book birth. Big Bird has squatted down and squeezed out my egg, my book's egg. Help! I might be having a stroke. I can't tell. I'm sorry for the typos, but I really can't wait to get a physical copy when I can. Why am I muttering? Christ! But I got that ebook file, so it won't stop me from reading. Oh yeah! Oh God! Yes, of course. I sent you. Oh no! I remember now. I remember. Good Lord, you're very understanding. You're very understanding. Thank you. Look at this. Well, happy birthday. Where do I buy this book? From what I can tell, because that Amazon is actually observing the time difference, so America has the squid has 6 hours to go, I think. I know it's I had every reason to think that it would operate off of the principal marketplace, that being Amazon.co.uk, but apparently it's decided to start paying attention to meridians. Oh, I don't know. I guess because they think they're fancy. But I must confess, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, that it is a fucking absurd thing to see. It lives. Jesus Christ. And there it is in Kindle Unlimited. Bloody hell. Shocking. Truly, truly shocking. I'm not going to claim £3 of Kindle credit to read my own fucking book. Jesus. I feel like Aslan. Don't quote the deep magic to me. I was there when it was written. Oh, goody, goody, goody gumdrops. Well, folks, this is the entertainment portion of it. Now that I'm sorry for the wait. I genuinely did not know. Like I say, I had every reason to believe that it was all clicking from the primary marketplace. But how may I amuse you? How may I while away the next 50 minutes or so? Dear God in heaven, it's real. It exists. Oh man, what's it going for in India? Wow, the rupee is not doing well against the pound. My God, that's 449 rupees, with tax included, which I guess is nice. For the ebook, yikes! I could live like a king out there. Wow, this is insane. Frankly, this is utterly, utterly mad. I made a thing, and it's out there. Yeah. I wonder if it's what parenthood's like, only with significantly less worry, and you don't have to like them. You are sort of expected to trash talk your book and to talk about cutting it. You know, you can use a lot of language about your book that you can't about a child. Yeah, I think I made the right choice, all things considered. And hell, there's enough pre-orders here to fix my overdraft, so that's nice. My God. This is very strange. What's awful? What, that I've got enough pre-orders to clear my overdraft? I think that's pretty good. Oh, that's true. But what I mean is that it's not an arrestable offense if you trash talk, if you trash talk your book, if you talk about your book in a violent capacity, no one's going to call social services on you. You're not going to be on an episode of SVU for that. I hope. Lord knows there have been enough Law and Orders that a literary crimes division might get a spin-off eventually at some point. But yes, holy hell. Holy hell. And, well, I've got a taste for it now. The only thing to do is write another one. And that is going... Like I said earlier, I have broken most of the big rules that are very popular on all the tube videos in order to write the Dead Meat Sextet. For my next one, I'm going to break all of them. And I'm going to break reality as well. I'm going to really see how far you can push the reality within a narrative and it still be comprehensible. So that's going to be my time travel horror novel, which I will probably get to work on as soon as I am absolutely certain that the paperback has been published and that that it is released in every territory across this gosh darn just so beautiful world. Oh, well then. So this is what it's like. This is what it is like. Not gonna lie, though I love you all very, very much, I would much rather be in the pub. But all I can think is how badly I want a cigarette. Well, I suppose that's normal. I am nothing if not a cliched writer. Oh, no, actually, no, not yet. I haven't got the, what are they called? Turtleneck. I need to get a black turtleneck. And then I will be a proper author. Wow. This is fucking bizarre. What have I got? What is this? I can't read this bloody thing. So the question is, why? Oh, maybe it does it like in the morning. I don't know. Because really, who wants to be woken up by the e-reader at like at midnight because the pre-orders come in? Just looking at the pre-orders from the UK, and they're still sitting in pre-order. They're not in sales. My God, I swear to God, guys, it has been so long since I actually properly spoke. You know what I mean? But I used to be quite the conversationalist. I used to be a reasonably well-regarded raconteur. But alas, no. Now I have slipped away into... Oh, God. I've slipped. I've slipped all the way into some sort of troglodytic daze, which would be an excellent name for a band. I think. Perhaps. We hope. Right. I always knew that this was going to be a quiet one. You know, not only is it Sunday, but it's Valentine's Day, and I understand that people put some stock in that sort of thing. But I am going to go. I'm going to have that smoke. I'm going to look at the sky for a little and think about all that comes next. Because it does seem such a little thing for the amount of work that went into it. And I just hope, beyond hope, that the people who read it, I hope they enjoy it. I hope what you get from it, I hope that you get from it what it was my intention to give. And I would like to thank all of you who have been here, listening to the wreck of the man that used to be, what now? That used to be Sean Hutchings, the author of The Dead Meat Sextet. Thank you for joining these very, very strange moments. I have every intention of getting back to video making and streaming in due course. I just have a few things to sort before I can do that in any great capacity. So there we have it. The Dead Meat Sextet, published. sort of, in a way. It's published heavy on the ish. At the last moment, Kent, so very, very good to see you. I hope you're well. I'm afraid I'm saying my goodbyes at this moment. It's been a long one, so I'm on my way to bed. But thank you so much for joining us at this last second. We've had some fun with time zones, it seems, which makes this stream more or less obsolete, but nevertheless. Right, folks, what's my sign-off? I used to have a sign-off, didn't I? Yes, I did. Thank you ever so much for joining me. It really does mean the world, and I will see you again sooner rather than later. So, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends and comrades, all, thank you so much for giving some of your time to this. Long life to you. Good evening.